Phishing, malware, and vulnerable operating system versions pose severe risks to any organization. Enter the Jamf Security Cloud, which powers capabilities like web threat prevention and content filtering to keep devices shielded from such risks. The Jamf Security Cloud portal is where administrators configure security and content policies, gather the resources needed for deployment, and view important reporting data. My name is Jeremy. Welcome to the introduction to the Jamf Security Cloud portal. Let's begin by taking a brief tour of the portal, then explore administrator accounts, create a device group, and create an activation profile to get devices enrolled. After logging into the Jamf Security Cloud portal, navigating to the dashboard in the sidebar on the left provides a range of metrics and reporting widgets which update every time the page refreshes. For example, administrators can view usage reports, security ratings, frequently visited sites, and vulnerability data, among other statistics. Each widget also includes a link in the bottom right to the corresponding page within the Jamf Security Cloud portal. The top right of the portal has buttons that open menus for downloading reports, quick links to administrator settings, and links to change account preferences or to log out. We'll see some administrator settings when we create additional admin accounts in a moment, but for now let's continue the tour in the bottom right with the Resource Center. The Resource Center contains a number of links for product documentation and support relevant to the current page in the portal, in this case, the dashboard. Moving on to the sidebar on the left, this is how we navigate the Jamf Security Cloud portal. Below the link to the dashboard, we can click Reports to view and export a number of reports. Click Devices to manage device groups, activation profiles, and view event logs. Policies are where we configure our organization's access, internet, and security policies. Integrations allow the Jamf Security Cloud to incorporate external services into security workflows, like syncing device information from Jamf Pro, connecting to an identity provider, and sending events to a Security Information and Event Management or SIEM service. Settings for the Jamf Security Cloud portal can be found under Settings. For example, to manage portal administrator accounts, select Settings, Administrators, Manage. Here we can view and edit account privileges and create additional accounts. Account privileges are determined by the role assigned to them, superadmin or read-only. A superadmin can access and edit all areas of the Jamf Security Cloud portal. A superadmin can also add or remove other administrators. Meanwhile, a read-only administrator can only view selected areas of the portal. Otherwise, a user without superadmin or read-only roles is considered a standard admin, which has granular permissions set by superadmins and cannot edit other administrators. Now that we've covered account roles, let's discuss how policies are applied to groups of devices. This will be helpful when creating device groups and configuring policies. All policies inherit settings from a base policy, but specific settings can be overridden by another policy if desired. For example, every portal has a default device group that cannot be deleted. All settings and changes made to the base policy affect this group. However, if we need to make an exception to any of those settings for one or more devices, another group must be created with a second policy to override those settings in the base policy. Changes to the base policy still impact the second policy except for any overridden settings. Each policy applies to one group of devices, and a device can only be assigned to a single group, so take this into consideration when planning device groups and policies. Say an organization's internet policy includes blocking social media, but the marketing department needs access to it to do their job. We can create a group of devices for marketing which have a policy where the social media restriction is overridden. If there are any devices that require a different exception, another group would need to be created to override those restrictions. Let's create a group for the marketing department and assign a device to it. To manage groups and device assignments, navigate to Devices, Manage. Click Add and choose Group. Enter a name for the group like Marketing, then click Save. Now we can assign devices to the marketing group in a few ways. To move a single device from one group to another, click the plus button to the left of the group name where the device is currently assigned. Locate the device, then move the mouse pointer over that device and a handle appears at the far left of that row. Click and drag the handle onto the new group to move the device into that group. We can also move one or more devices by selecting the checkboxes for devices we want to move. Once the devices are selected, click More Actions and choose Change Group. Choose the destination group from that pop-up menu, then click Change Group. While groups can always be changed later in this way, group membership can also be determined during enrollment. Let's create an activation profile to configure enrollment settings. Navigate to Devices and Activation Profiles, then click Create Profile. The activation profile used to enroll a device determines which Jamf Security Cloud capabilities are enabled. To enable security controls and internet content filtering, select Network Security and Content Controls, then click Next. Under Authentication, we have a few ways to identify users during enrollment. I'm leaving Without Identity Provider selected, and user identification comes from a connected Unified Endpoint Management or UEM solution like Jamf Pro. For more information on connecting a UEM, check out the link to UEM vendor integration in the resources. Otherwise, if this activation profile is being used for employees to self-enroll, we can select Ask User to submit name and email. Keep in mind that you can leave Assign Random Identifier selected if this activation profile is only used to enroll UEM-managed devices. Click Next, then we can configure advanced settings. When Jamf customizable block pages are enabled, a custom logo and text appears for users when they attempt to access blocked content. However, I'm turning this off and using the Apple native block page because it allows seamless interoperability with Apple's iCloud Private Relay without requiring decryption of network traffic. For more information, check out the link to block pages in the resources. At the bottom of the page, we can select a method for Jamf Trust to determine a device's location. Jamf Trust is an app that must be installed for certain Jamf Security Cloud capabilities to work. For more information, check out the link to distribution methods for the Jamf Trust app in the resources. Notice Best Effort is selected by default. This is likely the perfect choice for your organization if you're only using Jamf Security Cloud's network security, mobile endpoint security, or internet content filtering capabilities. Click Next, and we have the option to enter a name to identify the activation profile. I'm just entering Jamf Training since this is the only profile I plan to use. Now, suppose we want devices enrolled using this activation profile to be assigned to a specific group. In that case, we can choose one from the Device Group pop-up menu or start typing to create a new one. I'm leaving Default Group chosen, so all devices enrolled with this profile will be added to the organization-wide default device group. Click Next, and we're presented with a summary of the activation profile for us to review and make any changes if necessary. Activation profiles cannot be changed once created, but you can create as many new ones as needed. When ready, click Save and Create, then Create Profile. The deployment page for the new activation profile appears with a link at the top that can be shared with users so they can enroll their devices. Or, if deploying the activation profile to UEM-managed devices, select your UEM solution and OS, then the relevant deployment resources appear below those selections. Now that we've got the basics configured, continue to add your team members, create device groups, and generate activation profiles as needed. Once that's complete, you'll be ready to configure security and content filtering policies. That's all for the introduction to the Jamf Security Cloud portal. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.